Hello everyone, my name is Mallory Morell and today I will be presenting Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was the 7th President of the United States. He served 2 terms from 1829 to 1837. His political party was the Democratic-Republican Party. There were 3 main historical events that occurred during Andrew Jackson's time as president. The first was nullification. Andrew Jackson supported the tariff of 1828. He was just using it as a way to gain support from the North and West for his presidential campaign, thinking that it would never pass in the first place because the tariffs were so outrageously high. The idea for nullification came from the South Carolina Exposition written by John C. Calhoun. This gave South Carolina the drive to use nullification as a way to get out of the tariffs. A convention was formed and decided that both tariff bills were exempt from South Carolina. Jackson, being a nationalist, said that the act of nullification was pretty much treason in his proclamation of nullification. South Carolina was also isolated, as Jackson made it so no other state would support them. In response, South Carolina repealed its nullification against tariffs and nullified, instead, the Force Bill. The second main event that occurred was the Bank War. The Second Bank of the United States applied for the renewal of its charter. Andrew Jackson did not trust the bank. When Congress renewed the new charter, despite Jackson's opposition, he decided to veto the charter, saying that it was a way to give special privileges to the wealthy. After being re-elected in 1832, Jackson ordered that all federal funds be withdrawn and put into state banks. This resulted in the bank going under when its charter was up 4 years later. This gave a rise to state and local banks that had little federal government control over them and bad credit. Counterfeiting became common, and ultimately the national currency was ruined until the Civil War began. The third main event was the removal of Indians. Indian removal was a large issue during Jackson's presidency due to Western expansion. 2 major events that occurred with Native Americans at the time was the Indian Removal Act of 1830 and the Trail of Tears. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 stated that the federal government was allowed to trade land west of the Mississippi River for land on the east side, which also allowed them to move Native Americans wherever they pleased. The Trail of Tears was brought on by the discovery of gold in Georgia. The Cherokee were forced from their homeland to Oklahoma, and they went on foot. Many perished along the way. There were 3 main accomplishments during Jackson's presidency. Jackson accomplished the promotion of the common man, which was important at the time where the country was quickly growing and relied on the common man for many things to support the country. He also proved that the federal government was there for a reason, primarily during the issue of nullification. Finally, he contributed to Western expansion. Although he definitely did not go about this in the best way, he at least saw to it that the country expanded into Western territories. One of his major weaknesses was the destruction of the Second Bank of the United States. It created a domino effect that went on to affect the country for some time after the bank closed its doors, such as counterfeiting and the Panic of 1837. The main role that I chose for Andrew Jackson was Chief of Legislature. I chose Chief of Legislature because we see throughout his presidency that he influenced the entire federal government greatly by vetoing bills and urging Congress to pass bills that he thought were best. In this cartoon, we see a Cherokee Indian tied down with white men tearing him apart and the land being destroyed around him. This is a use of irony. This resembles the destruction of the Cherokee Nation, the Trail of Tears, and the push for more land during the time of Andrew Jackson's presidency. I think the artist did not like the idea of destroying the Indian nations and pushing them from their land. I think it shows a great representation of what the U.S. citizens wanted and the means by which they got it.